everyone. Welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's guest is Dr. Anna Petropoulos. She's a facial plastic surgeon offering surgical as well as non-surgical procedures to soften the signs of aging. Love that. She's Harvard trained and in private practice in Boston for the past 24 years. You can't tell, right? So Dr. Petropoulos has also been active in the academic university setting, publishing numerous scientific articles in peer-reviewed medical journals, speaking at national scientific conferences, and has secured several research grants as well as a National Institute of Health fellowship. She's also very heavily involved in the aesthetic conferences. She speaks all over the world, and she's been featured in several magazine and newspaper articles. So Dr. Petropoulos, I wanted to welcome you to Beauty and the Biz. It's been a minute and so nice to see you.
It's wonderful to see you again, Catherine, and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I like to start with the first question. Why facial plastic surgery and not some other kind?
Well, facial plastic surgery, I believe, is the most intricate and mentally stimulating of all plastic surgeries. The finesse needed during the surgery and the hand movements are very micro. So it's very exciting, and you have different areas of the face that you have to take into account and make them all look harmonious together so someone looks very natural. And the face is the first thing that we see and that attracts us in our human relations.
That's for sure. And then what was your journey? Because I take it you're not in academia anymore, or what was your journey from academia to private practice?
Yes, after my training with my residencies and fellowships at Harvard at Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary here in Boston, I went to Canada and I did a second facial plastics fellowship. And I learned so many more new things in Canada that were not available here in the United States back then, 25 years ago. You know, the Canadians were way on par with the Europeans. So that gave me the knowledge about non-invasive aesthetic medicine after all the surgical knowledge I had gained at Harvard. So combining those two together gave me a certain edge when I came back to the United States with knowledge that wasn't really available here at that time.
And then how did you decide to set up practice? First of all, why did you choose Boston? Are you from there?
Well, I grew up all over the world. Even though I'm American of Greek origin, I grew up in Africa, in Europe, in Germany, and I felt that Boston is the most European city of all the cities in the United States, and it has the decorum of the European system a little more than other cities do. So I really loved training here at Harvard and before that at MIT. So I felt really much at home here.
And did you go straight into private practice, or did you first, hang out at the university or the hospital, or join another partnership, or how did you get into the marketplace?
Yes, straight after my second fellowship in Canada, when I came back home to Boston, there was a practice opportunity to join a head and neck surgeon. And I joined him for about 3 months. But then we both felt it was best because I was facial plastics oriented. As we all know, in the aesthetic industry, the way we run our practices is a little different than the way general medical practices run their practices. So, starting from how we train our staff to answer the phones, how we train our staff with customer service. And you are the epitome of teaching offices how to do that. So, there's a big rift between customer service in a plastics office and the regular medical office. So after 3 months, I decided that it was best to have my own staff and my own office. And there was a free office space right next door. So that's what I did.
Oh, very nice. And are you in a medical setting or a university setting or a retail setting?
So I'm at a medical building setting which is lovely. It's nestled at the top of a bucolic hill in the suburbs of Boston, and it's affiliated with the various North Shore hospitals here. But at the same time, I have a second office on Commonwealth Avenue in the quintessential Boston's Back Bay. It's in the Windsor building, and it's just a lovely setting downtown as well.
Is it completely a different demographic between the two locations, and how much time are you spending at each?
We split our time, all my providers, we split our time about half between Danvers and Boston.
And I know you're also doing hair transplant. Is there a better market for certain procedures in one location, like downtown, versus the other location, which is more suburbia?
One would think that, but surprisingly, people all want the same thing. They all want to look the best they can, as natural as they can, with as little downtime as possible, and also to fit the budget. So everyone wants the same thing.
All right. And out of 100%, how much of your practice revenues are surgical versus non-surgical?
Well, that's a very good question. As time has progressed, and we are born in this day and age of technology, where technology every year is improving more and more. And I have about 18 different energy-based devices. So how can I tell someone, I'm going to take you to surgery for a few hours? Let's say a regular facelift. If you do a really good facelift, that's about 6 hours. And then you'll have a week or two of downtime, et cetera, et cetera. And how can I do that with a good conscience when I know I can achieve similar, very, very similar, equal or better results with a combination of my energy-based devices, my injectables, and my minimally invasive procedures? So I tend to use a conglomerate of those, minimally invasive or non-invasive, if I know that I can get the same results. So my surgical income is nowhere near what my non-invasive income is.
Interesting. That's really interesting. By the way, that didn't go by lightly. You said you have 18 devices. That's incredible. Do you have any tips for buying lasers? Because most, are pretty disappointed with their laser purchase for lots of reasons. But what's your situation been?
Well, that is so true. You are right. Many people buy lasers and they just sit at the back collecting dust. Maybe because, number one, they bought the wrong device. Maybe they didn't do enough reading. And as we know, sales reps are very, very persuasive and so endearing and charming. So it's very easy to fall into a trap. But my motto is never, ever buy a machine unless you try it out on yourself. And maybe you need to try on yourself and your staff, and maybe you need to try it twice or 3 times. That's number one. And then, I thank you for the setting that you had when you did your business course for plastic surgeons, where you gathered the top plastic surgery offices in the country together. And thank you for including me as one of those back then. And together, the camaraderie that we had with my other colleagues in your course, where we shared knowledge about, I won't say any names, but a particular device where another surgeon said, that was a complete waste of money. It hurts so much for the patients and the results are non-existent. I wish I'd never bought it. So I think speaking with your colleagues and asking around one-on-one unofficially what their impression is of the various devices is also very important. So you try it, number one, yourself, and you talk with your colleagues who already have it.
Well, and you have to consider the marketing of it. That thing doesn't just sell itself. You can't
Yes.
just flippantly add it to your website under your procedures and hope for the best. Like it really, I'm hoping that anybody who buys a laser in today's world, the next question out of my mouth to the sales rep would be, how are you going to help me market this to my audience? And they have to give you a real solid marketing plan and hopefully some dollars to back it up, you know?
You are absolutely right. And you took the words right out of my mouth. And it's not just having a marketing plan, as you know better than anyone, it's also training your staff when they answer the phones to be knowledgeable about it and have the right buzzwords to engage and attract people to have the treatments with that device as well. So it's a multifactorial process to make a device successful. Number one, it has to be the right device, but number two, you have to know how to market it on all levels, not just on social media and web and print ads, if anyone does them still today, but your staff every day, not just answering the phones, but when walking down the hall, escorting a patient or doing a consult. Everyone has to know what to say about it.
Do you know how often we do mystery shopping and the staff doesn't know the lasers? They don't know what the lasers do. They'll say things like, "Oh yeah, I've heard about that one. I'll have to call you back. I'm not sure if we have that one." And a lot of that, you have to take responsibility for that. The leader of the practice needs to make sure the staff has been to the website and knows what the heck you're offering there and can just answer very simple FAQs. And every laser company gives you the FAQs, but you have to drill it into the staff consistently and regularly because they have to be able to talk about that because patients, they're going to ask them first, then they're going to be in the room with the MA, they're going to ask them, then they're going to be in the room with you, then they're going to ask you, and they're looking for consistency. And I would just say, regular staff training on what you offer, your services, and what they do for the patients, absolutely mandatory.
Yes, and especially if the staff have had the treatments themselves too.
Sure.
And they just glow with joy about the treatment. And it's so easy for patients to pick up that joy and also want the treatment.
For sure. Okay. So you have a lot of, just logistically, how many devices are did you duplicate? Do you have each device in each office, or how are you handling all of how do you have so much room? Because Boston's kind of an expensive city to rent space in square foot wise.
Well, I don't know. I believe in the universe or God or whatever you want to call it. Everything just falls into place. I've been so fortuitous. I started with 840 square feet. And then 2 years later, I bought the practice next door to me, the person that I had originally joined who retired. And then I knocked a hole in the wall and then joined the two. Then a few years later, I bought across the hall, and one by one, I just bought all the units. Now I own the whole bottom floor on Boston's North Shore. And then in Boston, I believe I have a lovely setting. I bought it during COVID. It's dead center, front door, ground floor office in the Windsor building. For those who don't know, it's a very upscale building in the Back Bay. And that has about 1,600 square feet and has 7 exam rooms, including 2 large procedure rooms, a consult room. It's just very well situated. It took me 2 years of renovation, and it's all marble and black galaxy and black faux crocodile leather. So yeah, it's really exquisite. And people love coming there. I have trained my staff to be gracious hostesses, as if they are inviting people to their home for an upscale soiree or cocktail party. And, the ambiance in these settings really helps create that feeling, together with the customer service of my staff and their warmth and inviting nature, makes it all a very positive experience for our patients, which is very important.
Any tips for motivating staff to stay like that? The issue is consistency. Sometimes you've got staff that work so well together, and the culture, you've developed a beautiful culture of family and friend-like atmospheres. And then sometimes a staff person leaves or another one comes on and they're a tad toxic and it changes the mix. Any tips on hiring and keeping staff motivated?
Well, I can just draw back to what our professor said in the course that you ran, and that was, Ed Williams, the emeritus president of our board in our academy. And what he said was be slow to hire and quick to fire. And that has been my motto regarding staff for the last 20 years or so. It is so important. Don't just hire someone because you like them in the first interview and you thought the chemistry was good. Have them come and shadow with you and tell them they will be paid for their shadowing days so that they don't feel a grudge to coming. Sometimes you need more than 1 or 2 shadow days. Sometimes you need 3 to get the feel of a potential staff member. You want to see how they interact with other staff. Make sure they all have touch points with each and every staff member. Have them interact with a patient or seat a patient, see what their behavior is like, what their mannerisms, their culture, are they polite? What is their character like? And then you can hire them. And even then, sometimes people can fool you. So always have them on a 3-month probation. And you touched upon culture. That is so important. It's not just it's not just having the highest character possible. They have to be ethical people. They have to be caring and kind people, not only to their fellow staff members, but also to the patients. And nothing should be below them to do. Like they should be willing to do anything that is necessary in the office to make a patient comfortable. For example, one time I had a patient who was undergoing chemotherapy and her feet were burning. She came in for her Botox and her feet were burning because of the neuropathy that the chemo had done the day before. So, I immediately took her shoes off and started, massaging her feet with a certain lidocaine cream that we had. And I asked, because I was really pressed for time, I asked my secretary at that time, this is 20 years ago, if she would massage the other foot. I mean, this lady was suffering. Why can't we help her? And she threw a little tizzy that it's below her position to do that. So, that's just an extreme example, but I think everyone should do whatever it takes to help a person in need or someone who's suffering. And it's really important to hire people like that with an open mindset.
For sure. And another thing you did on your social media, which I loved, there was some kind of a holiday and you said, and you asked each team member what would they like to celebrate. And of course, somebody said Botox, somebody said filler, lip filler, somebody else. And I don't understand why doctors are so stingy about the services that they offer, because who are your better walking, talking testimonials than your staff, you know?
Yes, yes. Yeah. So it's wonderful. We have such a lovely team right now. We all respect each other for who we are. Everyone is precious in their own way. Everyone's a little different, but we all have the same thread that binds us, that we want to bring joy to our patients' lives. And that's actually our motto, bring joy to our patients' lives through the artistry and excellence of our work. And we all firmly believe that that's embedded in our hearts, and that's how we live our lives.
Very nice. Are you the only revenue generator, or are your staff also income producers?
Absolutely. We have 3 estheticians. One has 20 years experience. She knows lasers and RF devices inside out. She does about 5 Morpheuses or Silfirms a day. She is really, really good with her treatments. And then we have 2 more with a little less experience, maybe 10 years and 5 years experience each. And then we also have a nurse injector who's absolutely wonderful. I trained her very, very meticulously before I let her loose on my patients. And she's so good. I actually gave her own clinic to run. And it's quite funny. I always joke around that I feel like I'm having an out-of-body experience when I'm watching her work, because she has perfected every flick of the wrist, every use of every finger when she's working. So if I'm standing on the other end of the room and I'm watching her, I think, what are my hands doing over there? So, because her hands are exactly the same as mine. So it's great.
Is she the one on social media that's doing some of your treatments?
Yes, yes.
And
Yeah.
that's a really good indication to other patients. It's that called that transference of credibility. I mean, if you trust her so much with your own face, they'll certainly trust her as well with theirs. So
Yes.
that was a good move, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, she does a great job. She also has her Botox and filler clinic, just as I do. But she also does a lot of thread lifting very successfully. She loves thread lifting, and does energy-based device work as well. And also the PRP hair injections. So lots of good things.
Just do you have any? A lot of the nurse injectors, a lot of people anyway, they see you doing this. They think, oh wow, this is so easy. I'll do it on my own. Have you ever had that issue? Because a lot of practices have, where they have trained somebody, they've built up their audience, they're built, their fan club, and then they get kind of arrogant. I don't know what the word is, but they want to go out on their own. Have you had that issue, or do you have any way to protect yourself from that?
Thank God I'm very, very blessed that hasn't happened to me. And I believe it's because of my selection of people. And again, here is the slow to hire. With nurses, there is no way I'm going to let them touch a patient if they haven't been with me, training under me for many, many months. And, as a medical assistant on a medical assistant salary, while they're training, because they're not producing any revenue. So it's a win-win situation. Instead of them going and paying thousands and thousands of dollars somewhere else to be trained, they're getting trained from the horse's mouth. I don't know if you're aware, but I've been a national and international trainer for the last 24 years. Allergan made me their trainer 24 years ago, before Botox was even FDA approved. And I have been ever since. That was because of the highest number of Botox injections in all of New England 24 years ago, when I came back from Canada, where I had all that knowledge that was still not prevalent in America yet. So, back to my nurse, she realizes, how valuable it was to be trained by someone of this caliber. I don't mean to be boasting, but that's what people say. So,
Yeah,
and
she's
then,
the best of both worlds, because she was trained by the best, and you give her enough autonomy where maybe she doesn't feel like she has to go out on her own. And,
yes.
and because it's not as easy as it looks. And a lot of people look in and say, oh, I could do that. But it sounds like you're doing a great job with that. That's fantastic. And I hope it stays that way. Yes.
Oh, thank you. I hope so too. And I think it's up to us to be the rainmaker for all our staff.
Yeah. Can you just give me one business mistake that you made that you learned a lot from, that others could actually learn from as well?
Huh. I I don't think there have been any tragic mistakes. I think the bottom line is, do not hire, and this has happened several times, where you are in a position where you're understaffed, that you feel you have to hire quickly, and because you have compassion for your existing staff that are feeling overworked after months of being understaffed, if you lost someone, and then you all feel pressure that you have to hire, let's say you've interviewed 5 people and you're still not finding the right one for that position, and then the 6th one comes along and you're also fed up. We make our decisions together with the staff, so you're also fed up. Subconsciously you say, okay, let's hire. I think that mistake has happened to me many times over 24 years. And I caution everyone not to fall into that trap, because it typically doesn't end well. You need to make sure the person that you hire has the right mentality to fit in your office, the right customer service, and right personality and culture.
So common. Yeah, that one's a big one. Yeah, it's usually some kind of a staff mistake and it never turns out well. And it causes you more grief and sleepless nights than necessary. And it just,
Yes.
it takes some experience for that. Let's talk about marketing now. That's a fun topic. So
Yes.
how competitive is it is it a lot different competitive wise in the suburbs versus in the city? And how's that working out for you, the competition?
No, I haven't noticed a difference. And um, I don't perceive any competition, to be honest, because, what my office brings to the table, I have both the surgical knowledge and the energy based device knowledge and the non invasive knowledge. And not many practices have that knowledge. We typically have our gung ho surgeons who want to be in the OR all the time and poo poo the non invasive treatments. Or we have the med spas that focus more on non invasive. So there's very, very, very few that have both, the knowledge of both, and can guide a patient either to the right or to the left, or a combination of both non invasive and invasive. So I don't really perceive competition much. Thank God, until now, in the system, there's still enough to go around, even though there are many, many med spas opening up on each and every street corner from people who have, just 2 hours of training on how to do Botox. There's a course here from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings. A whole bunch of nurses go there, 2 hours of training, they get a certificate how to do Botox, and they go and open a spa. So those spas are prevalent everywhere. And guess who sees all their mistakes? Because I'm a national and international trainer, and all these mistakes get sent to me to fix. So I don't know. I'm not really perceiving much competition. There's still enough to go around for everyone.
Yeah, good for you. What about your patient demographics? Because you've got the female aging face, let's say, but then you also have the hair, which includes men. So how are you divvying up your efforts, your budget, your resources to cater to different demographics?
Yes, we do have many demographics, not only divided by age. As you said, the aging female, we have plenty of those. We also have males who need to keep their edge in the workforce, especially men in business and in sales. They need to keep that edge. And I'm sure you know the typical middle-aged man who's wealthy and has to go to business dinners all the time. So they do get pot bellies. And our M Sculpt Neo and the M Sculpt, also our body sculpting procedures are skyrocketing, because to have a cutting edge, you have to maintain your appearance and not let it look old and saggy, both for men and women. And then, of course, we're getting the younger generation that want baby Botox, and I fully support them, because that's what I did. You alluded to how long I've been around, but I started doing Botox when I was 33. So that was many decades ago. And I support anyone who wants to do that, because it maintains their looks.
But do you have much of a marketing budget or plan for catering to the various different demographics?
We will be delineating that more specifically right now. I have hired an amazing CFO who specializes in that, and we will be allocating different marketing budget segments to different items.
Right? Because men get their information somewhere else, or older people or younger people, or we all get our information in so many different places nowadays. it's getting complicated. But then I want to talk about well, before we get to that, let's talk about patient trends, because you've been around. How much have they changed throughout the years? And what are people asking for now that they never did before?
Well, still, believe it or not, still some older, like in their 50s and 60s, females still have never had Botox before, believe it or not. So that still prevails, but more and more people know what it is and have had it. A lot of people are asking for thread lifts right now. And there's so many different threads on the market. You have to go to someone who's very well versed with all of them and has crystallized down to the best option, the safest option and the most long-lasting option. Yeah, thread lifts are really in demand right now, and also the body sculpting.
Okay. Let's talk about your social media, because you're kind of crushing it there. You've got 37,000 followers. Are you doing that on your
I didn't
own?
even know that. That's great. Thank you for telling me.
So do you have to have a team helping you with that? It looks like you're doing a lot of video. How are you making that happen behind the scenes?
Well, we are so blessed with our team right now. We have, our management team are all in my age group. And then we have wonderful staff that are in their 20s. And they're really good young kids that have a great work ethic. I know that is very hard to find today, but they do have a great work ethic, and they have a lot of knowledge in social media. So, they're all busybodies, filming any downtime they have in the day. They film, and then they crop the videos and post them. So it's a team effort, and I also get a little involved with the hashtags, etc. So it's a team effort.
How much of your time per week? How much time would you average on social media?
Me, myself, maybe about an hour or two, because I feel, but not all at once. It's 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I feel that my staff are really getting the hang of it and know exactly what my taste is and how I like things to be presented. So, yeah, it's not too bad.
You've had a good uh, patient interaction part to your social media. And do you have any secrets for how are you getting that patient to approve, like a quick video? And it looks like it's very natural. It looks like they were just going to have something done. Or, that one girl who had the acne issues, and it's very authentic. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for. Is there anything in particular you're doing to make that happen or get that patient to say, oh, absolutely, put a camera in my face. I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, I think that's a tribute to the friendship that we have with our patients. Allergan counted my statistics. They analyzed all my numbers and said we had a 96% retention rate with return Botox visits.
That's remarkable. I've never heard that before.
Yes, that is. And that means 96% of patients come back every 3.5 to 4 months for their Botox. So, after 24 years, you build relationships with people. And I attribute their willingness to jump on social media with me to that we have a relationship together, that we're friends, that they'll be happy to do something for me. Typically, the younger ones, of course, they want to be, you don't even have to ask them. They want to do it on their own anyway. The older ones, some of them are shy and say they'd rather stay private. Others are just fine to go on it with you.
Are you asking, or is the staff asking?
Both. If I'm with a patient that I feel would want to share their experience and that they have a great experience, then I'll ask them. Or my staff will also ask their own patients if they are willing to do that.
Nice. Yeah, you're doing a great job of that. Any tips on how to get before and after photos? Because that's another tough one with face. A lot of people will say, oh, you can show, my body, but I don't want my face to show. Because nowadays it's all about social proof. So any tips on how you're...
Absolutely. Like when you ask them, you can say, if you notice a reticence, you can say, well, you don't have to show your whole face. If you'd if you like, we can just show from the nose down, or we could put black circles over your eyes. And then you just write those little notes on the consent form that they requested. So some people say no problem. Some people will say, yes, do the black circles on the eyes. Everyone has different wishes.
Okay. And give me a big challenge that you've had. Just a challenge of like, oh, let me put it this way. What's the biggest challenge of running your own solo practice?
I don't know. That's just normal everyday life for me. Every day is a challenge, but a really fun challenge. Every day has something exciting going on that you have to deal with and make something good come out of it. I can't really pinpoint something big. When you lose a staff member, that's always difficult. But thank God, and again, what we talked about in your course way back when you have staff redundancy, if you lose someone, it's not the end of the world. So, and of course, it's easy for me now to have redundancy at my stage because I've been in it for 24 years. So it's easy for me to say that. But at the 3-year mark, talking about someone new coming straight out of training, at the 3-year mark or a 4-year mark, then when they don't have redundancy, then it's extremely difficult to lose a staff member.
No, I understand that. It's so there's such a balance there because you want to keep your overhead down, but not so down that when you lose somebody, it's not just in like a frustration. It's a dire issue.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not an easy answer on that one.
I would just tell the young people when they're just starting, don't worry about the budget. Just get your redundancy. It will save you tons and tons of headaches. I think those were the major headaches way back then when a staff member would leave for some reason or other, and you'd be short-staffed and things would not run properly until you got someone in. And then you were forced to get, like we were saying earlier, forced to hire because of the circumstances. So I think if you have redundancy, you won't be in that position. And just don't worry about the budget. Just, have your redundancy.
Okay, you heard her. Money's no object. Give me a call. I'll help you out with that. So, so to wrap this up, can you tell us something we don't know about you already?
Well, I'm not sure if people know that I used to have my pilot's license when I was 22. I was doing aerospace medicine, and I had a grant with NASA, and we collaborated with ESA, the European Space Agency, as well. And I had opportunities to fly in zero gravity doing my experiments, my aerospace medical experiments, and conducting them in zero gravity. So the airplane flies at 45 degrees upwards. It's usually a KC-135 in the United States or a Caravelle in Europe. So it flies at 45 degrees, and then it does a parabolic flip and comes down at 45 degrees. So at the top of that parabolic turn, you have 40 seconds of zero gravity. So I had the opportunity to do that, and that was a lot of fun.
What does that feel like?
It feels wonderful. Well, I love roller coasters and joy rides and all that, so I'm privy to that. It feels lovely. You just float in space. It's great. Yeah.
How did you get from you're a pilot, so you flew planes, but then you went to
yeah. So I wanted to continue to do aerospace medicine, and when my medical school finished and I had to choose the residency and the specialty to go in, I ended up choosing ENT, head and neck surgery, which also had plastics as part of it. And the reason I chose that was twofold. One, it's a surgical, and I love working with my hands and seeing results right away. I can't bear to wait a month to wait for medicine to work, like internal medicine. So it was surgical, number one. But number two, it would allow me to continue my vestibular research with NASA. And that's why I chose that. Also because the work is very finesse work, very microscope. You also work under microscopes a lot, so it's meticulous finesse work. So, year after year, I went through the various rotations. And then when I came on the plastics rotation, it was in a split second. It was, forget about aerospace medicine. I'm doing plastics. Like a big passion or a fire just lit up inside me. And I knew plastics was the way I wanted to follow. So that's how it all happened.
That is amazing. I did not see that coming, that you were a pilot. You never know. Looks are deceiving. I did see that. I didn't see NASA. Good for you. So, Dr. Petropoulos, thank you so much for being on Beauty in the Biz. If anybody wanted to get a hold of you, I do know your website is classicface.com. And is there any other way they could be in touch?
Yes. Our Instagram is at Center for Classic Beauty. And our phone number, our office number is 978-739-9500.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks again. And everyone, that's going to wrap it up for today's Beauty in the Biz. If you feel so inclined, we would love a review and subscribe. And then please share this with your family and friends and colleagues and your staff, of course. And then if you've got any questions for me, please leave them on my website at katherinemaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at katherinemaley.MBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon.
The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.